All right, we're going to listen to something here that has been going on now for almost a whole year regarding the Middle Eastern war that appears like it's only growing. It's getting worse. It's festering. It's evolving. It's turning into something that most world leaders today does not want to see evolve, because they know the exchange of how that one incident on the planet can affect everybody else, regardless whether it be monetarily or emotionally or whatever. In other words, we live in a very, very small box today in comparison to what we did during World War II, during the Jewish Holocaust era. But please listen to this, because I found it to be astonishingly well, I'll just let you use your own vocabulary and how that you have found it to be this interview on Facing the Nation regarding these sensitive issues.
Terror organizations, they don't really give a damn about international affairs. They take hostages, or they fire as much as they want. They get instructions from Tehran. They send Houthi terrorists to block the high seas, and the cost of living in the world goes up. This is the culture of terror. Yeah. And it's a terror of jihadists, meaning they don't give a damn about anything. Now, we agree time and again to go into rounds of talks. We support and welcome the efforts by the United States of America and the administration. Truly, we respect it tremendously, but at the end of it, okay, Mr. Hochstein leaves Israel, and they keep on firing and firing, and that cannot go on forever, because our citizens must go back home, because yes, the guy in Lebanon, Mr. Nasrallah, thinks that he wants to link it to Gaza, and in Gaza there's another arch-terrorist, Mr. Sinwar, in the dungeons, who doesn't want to get to a deal, refuses to get to a deal. This is jihadism at its best, and that's what we are fighting. Well, and I wish, truly, and I say it as the President of Israel officially, yes, and I say it outright because I know we don't want war, but if it's waged against us, we go all the way.
Well, you say you don't want war, Mr. President. Israel moved its 98th Division to the north of Israel this week. Your defense minister says the center of gravity is moving towards Lebanon. What is the intention of those military moves, if not to prepare for war?
Because these guys who we eradicated on Friday were gathering together in their apartment in Beirut in order to plan another October 7th. They developed this school of thought of swarming into Israel, of trying to take hostage, of butchering, raping, evidence? Burning, abducting.
And you know, when it comes to evidence, really, self-evident is not even required at this point in time, because we know that that whole region over there has been destined in wanting to take out Jerusalem, take out the Christian society, because of their anti-Semitism over there. We know that. So there really isn't no need for any proof. The proof is already in the pudding regarding how they feel about the Christians or those associated with the Lord Jesus Christ. This has been obvious since 1993, whenever they declared war on not only Israel, but they declared war on America in and of itself. So the question really is it's kind of naive, which I understand the reason why that she done it, and asking the questions, is there any proof? Is there any proof? Yes, there's always been proof regarding our enemy wanting to kill, steal, and destroy. And you don't have to be a war analyst. You don't have to be an Einstein. You don't have to be some Harvard, Yale educated professor to sit here and figure out that what is going on over in the Middle East is a manifestation of a climatic event that will be a global climatic event that will affect every human being upon to the planet in one form or a fashion. And like I said, if it don't affect you any other way, it will affect you psychologically speaking by knowing that you're having to see and witness so many innocent lives being destroyed, especially when it comes to the lives of children. I mean, it's bad enough in looking what's going on with Russia, and I've said before and I'll say again, I am not a sympathizer pertaining to Putin bombing and going to war with the Ukrainian people. I never have been and I never will be regarding his issues, because those are issues fundamentally that I feel like that could have been worked out. They could have been resolved other than a bloodbath, other than turning basically certain parts of Ukraine into nothing but a wasteland. And now that war is expanding and getting even worse, and it's just a matter of time if it doesn't calm down a little bit. It's only going to possibly lead into something that who knows what, that's going to once more affect every human being's life upon this planet, because we live in a very, very small box in comparison to what went on during World War II. I continue to keep telling people that again and again and again, and obviously it's not it's not reaching the right ears or something. I don't know, but it's bad. But leading down to what Margaret just asked, do you have any proof? The proof has already been proven. Proof is in the pudding in how they feel about Jesus Christ people and Christianity pertaining to the Jews being God's chosen people. The proof is in the pudding. Excuse me for coughing. It's gotten dry and my allergies bother me today.
Attack was imminent?
A risk still to take care of. Pardon?
Do you have evidence that there was an imminent attack?
So I can't go into all the information itself, but it is assumed that they were planning an attack. You see today, this morning, they took out a barrage of attacks on Israeli cities, towns and villages all over the northern part of Israel, pounding with huge bombs and missiles on the northern part of Israel. Why would any nation accept it? Why would any decent nation accept it? We're almost a year in such a situation of a kind of a vicious cycle. We want to get out of this vicious cycle.
This past week, the AP put out graphic footage shot in the West Bank where Israeli soldiers pushed the bodies of Palestinians off the roof of buildings there. The White House says they want an investigation, that this is abhorrent and egregious behavior. How do you respond to these concerns from one of your closest allies that Israel may be adding to escalation risk?
So we, of course, listen to our closest ally openly and frankly. This is, if it occurred as reported, and it is under investigation because we are a nation of the rule of law, we will, of course, take all necessary action. We will condemn it and use all...
You are a nation of the rule of law. In whose law? In what law? Are you a nation in the law of grace, pertaining to turning thy cheek and offering thy other? Or are you a nation of law regarding the Mosaic law of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth? See, this is the part that the American people over in the Western world really don't understand, is that they fundamentally drive and have been driven by a ideology that is old as it is long, pertaining to the old Mosaic law. This was the very thing that Jesus Christ emphasized upon again and again and again. And don't get me wrong. Israel deserves to be able to defend itself at any given cost, especially whenever it's attacked. Don't get me wrong. But whenever you see this going on day after day after day, and you know that there's just as many attacks coming from Israel as it is Hamas and the enemy over there, All this is doing is inflaming a situation and causing it to even escalate and grow worse. Like I said a while ago, you don't have to be a Harvard or Yale professor to see this. This is right in front of our very noses. And if we're not smart enough to identify these things and try to stop these things or act upon these things, and total hell busts loose in all of our lives, all over the world, then we have no one to blame other than ourselves. We have no one to blame other than ourselves. Because, yes, their retaliation pertaining to what had went on and how it went on was justified. But to think that you're going to be able to eradicate all the evil over there in the Middle East, as far as eradicating Hamas and all those that believe in that same ideology, is absolutely preposterous. It's an illusion upon to the leader of Jerusalem, because even the Bible teaches us to let the wheat grow with the tares, let the bad people grow with the good people until time of harvest. It will be whenever God the Father calls in the harvesters in the last days, pertaining to basically the 7-year tribulation period that it talks about with the false prophet and the Antichrist. It will be only then whenever the bloodshed, according to the Bible, will get as deep as a horse's bridle over in the Middle East in various parts. This is what they're leaning towards, and I'm telling you right now, this is a big deal, because before we seen other skirmishes over in the Middle East, we wasn't dealing with the same set of dynamics pertaining to COVID. Now, since COVID has hit, it has absolutely rattled some of these banana Republican third world countries down in Mexico and South America and other parts of the world. So you can only imagine what that it has done to their existences, to their lifestyle over in the Middle East. It has become very brutal, extremely brutal. And right now, it's either do or die, and that's the way they're going to look at it, based upon the Mosaic law, based upon the Judea law, based upon the Sharia law, and based upon about 14 other different types of predominant entities over there that practice various things. That all leads back to the Bible, pertaining to the book of Daniel, of the old Persian Empire, of the hand that was writing on the wall. Now, whenever I talk about the miracles that has happened in my particular life, regarding the two hands that I felt wrap around both of my wrists as this 4,000-pound 79 model Buick Regal was fixing to roll over on top of me and cut me completely in half, kill me, it shouldn't be to no surprise. And why it was to a surprise to my dad and my mother and Damian Cross over in Kenton, Tennessee, must have been because they was unlearned, or wasn't learned, they was ignorant, or something went on to the degree that they actually thought that I was being hallucinatory. I was hallucinating these things. Well, whenever you go to the hospital and you lose 9 units of blood, and they wind up having to cut you open from stem to stern, and they go in and remove your spleen, and while they're in there, they remove your appendix, and then it takes 64 2-inch wide staples of basically bringing both of those pieces of skin back together around your torso. That way they'll heal up together. Whenever you look at statistically, medically, of what it had occurred in my life, this is not an illusion. That was not an illusion that occurred in my life, towards me having to basically have 9 units of blood put into my system. And it was not an illusion pertaining to James Robert Jackson attacking me during the time that I still had 64 staples up and down my belly that City Hall over here in Kenton, Tennessee should be able to verify, but somebody started feeling antsy and started feeling guilty about what had went on and that it wasn't right, and because of it they ripped the page out of the Minuteman book that never should have been ripped out of that book. But even at that, I still have witnesses such as Don Curry over in Rutherford, Tennessee. I still have various witnesses pertaining to my own family members. I still have witnesses pertaining to an individual that was married to my older brother at the time that know what was going on. And I still got witnesses right here in the Hopkins, Cydonia, Northwest Tennessee, Weakley County, Obion County area that can verify that my dad was extremely brutal whenever it come to him losing his cool. Why I am continually making these videos without seeing a predominant movement in America is beyond me. It's absolutely beyond me. And whenever I hear and see things like what's going on right now over in the Middle East pertaining to what's being recorded in Face the Nation with Miss Margaret asking these questions, it's really not astonishing to me. In biblical Bible prophecy being fulfilled on the levels that it's being fulfilled, because it talks about in the Bible, Jesus said that whenever you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, to know that we are at the doors. That whenever you shall see Jerusalem accomplished with armies, to know that we are at the doors. To understand prophecy is like understanding history. And it's really understanding historical history before it ever really gets made. And that's the exact same thing that I continue to keep harping about, that in ways I guess I do have empathy on what President Putin has basically announced to the world, that his government had been cheated. He's correct about that. And it wasn't just his government, but it's all the other things that right now we should be experiencing on a good level, but instead of seeing it on a good level, we're seeing it on a bad level. Whose fault is that? Is that the fault of the founder of the Windmill Ministries Missions that has put forth 30 plus years of his life of putting out this message that everybody wanted to decline and everybody wanted to reject for one reason or the other? Is it my fault? Or is it the fault of those that was supposed to have supported the man of God? Because the Bible says, blessed is he who cometh in the name of the Lord. I ain't coming in the name of myself. I ain't coming in the name of Hinduism. I ain't coming in the name of Voodooism. I ain't coming in the name of some other far-fetched ideal. I'm coming in the name of biblical Bible prophecy coming out of the King James Version pertaining to the Lord Jesus Christ. And if those that claim or have proclaimed that they live by the same guidelines regarding the teachings of Christ, they have failed not just the ministry that God had placed up into my life towards the anointing, but they have failed themselves. They have failed their own future, their own children's future. They have failed regarding a true revival in the extent that we should all right now be under peace and prosperity and utopia. But because we have been taught, first of all, that the first horseman, which is the white horseman out of the seven seals, is of that in which of the false prophet or of the Antichrist, people are leery. They're scared. They're superstitious. And because we've been taught here in America that if it sounds too good to be true, well, it must be. So don't believe it. Well, in the meantime, we got everybody and their brother running towards all these other untruthfulnesses that's happening, that even Donald J. Trump talks about fake news and that the swamp needs to be drained regarding these issues. But yet now we continue to keep going in the direction of war and more harm and more hurt. So you tell me what's going on. I know what's going on. We still got people in America that are still in denial about what didn't happen, that should have happened, that they're responsible for, beginning in Kenton, Tennessee in 1983. And then it went from Kenton, Tennessee to the White House, back down to this area, and that's in addition to all the material that the Windmill Ministries Missions has put out in the past 30 plus years. These are facts. You can't deny the facts whenever you see it on TV and you see dead bodies being pushed off the roof. That's not delusional. That's not some sort of figment of our imagination. That's actually happening to these people's lives, in addition to all the other suffering and all the other misery. Just pure, mere terrorizing misery that's happening to those people. But yet now we still ain't seen no movement over here in America. You tell me what's going on. You don't have to be an Einstein to figure this thing out. I've been preaching and preaching and preaching, and thank God I'm no longer preaching just to a tree or I'm preaching to the air. At least I got social media and I've got the internet now that I can use to where maybe somebody out there will hear what I got to say. Maybe somebody out there will pay attention to what I've been preaching on now for the past 30 plus years, 35, going on now 40 years, since 1983, about the Antichrist, the one world government, the New World Order, the opening of the seals, the four horsemen, the two witnesses. I could go on and on and on about these things that I've been grounded in. But yet no, still don't have support. Still don't have true backers. Still don't have people that stand with me openly about all of this. So inevitably, whenever you see things that's going on right now on Face the Nation, don't be alarmed in the aspect of seeing it even getting worse. Because that's exactly what's happening. It is getting worse. Not better, but worse.
We will, of course, take all necessary action. We will condemn it and use all the, the legal steps that need to be taken against it. But we are studying it because we're a serious army and a serious people, and we study and investigate ourselves as much as we can.
Before I let you go, do you think that President Biden's efforts to negotiate that hostage deal is just wishful thinking at this point? Will this be a problem for the next American president?
So actually, I would say that I have huge respect for President Biden's efforts, and we support it wholeheartedly. But as the spokesperson of the National Security Council, General Kirby, just said the other day, we are not getting any positive signs from Hamas at all. From Sinwar, he's out there in the dungeons taking, whatever we think in our line of thinking as free, loving nations and peoples, he thinks the other way. But I would say that the call for the family of nations in this current crisis, which is boiling hot, is actually perhaps the opportunity to go forward and change the situation by finding the right exit and bringing the hostages back home.
Mr. President, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
We'll be right back.
It is so senseless in seeing this barbaric way of thinking going all the way back to the original Persian Empire days, which was basically about 2,000 years. Well, excuse me, it was basically about 700 years BC before Christ come onto the scene. But it's primitive thinking in seeing how that people to this day over there, still rather be ineffective in a peaceful solution way than they would be effective in a war way. These people, all their lives, they have been studied. They have been brainwashed in believing an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. These was the common factors that even Jesus Christ said that he did not come to do away with the law, which was the law of God. He did not come to do away with that law, but rather than to fulfill that law. They never have accepted the fulfillment of that new law, that right now we're living under the law of grace rather than the law of the Mosaic law, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. This is the reason why it is so difficult to touch base with those people's thinking over there. They are so brainwashed in that old concept that they have never broken away from, that goes right back to the first part of Revelations, where it talks about that even God himself hates those that participate in this old Persian Empire broken system, because it is no fairness at all whenever it comes to the middle class, much less the poor class that they despise over there. Now, granted, Jerusalem, Israel, they have tried desperately to try to modify or adjust to that way of thinking, but even to this day, I think I don't have to lie to nobody about it. The majority of the people over there are still looking for the Messiah. They still have not truly been given over to that format of teaching that Jesus was telling people about. As I said before, there's no doubt they are a nation that deserves, in all fairness, to be able to defend itself in a hostile attack like this. But whenever you are purposely agitating and doing things that are you causing the enemy to even inflammatory the situation even worse, then you must start looking at things from a different perspective, that my God is really the leader of Jerusalem over there. Is he really part of the solution to the problem, or is he actually the problem? Because whenever you go to jabbing and pushing and slapping people around and blowing up this and killing people and putting bombs in pagers and putting bombs in walkie-talkies and stuff like that, you're basically asking for it. You no longer are looked upon in the eyes of the world as in someone that is defending themselves, but now you're basically using terrorism type tactics that even President Nixon was against, whenever Libya and places like that was gassing their own people. There are certain things that you just don't do whenever it comes to these conflicts. And whenever you see somebody that is breaking those laws, getting below the belt, like I said, it would be the same thing if America sat back and watched somebody like Libya poison their own people with poisonous gases, and us seeing it all over the TV, people foaming at the mouth and dying by the thousands or the hundreds, and us not be willing to do nothing about it. That's what I'm saying. Their war tactics is going beyond what's acceptable tactics, and now they're reaching the level of barbarianism, which is basically terrorist. But we've seen that with Saudi Arabia, with the Yemens. We've seen that now with Russia pertaining to the Ukrainians. We've seen that now with other skirmishes all over the planet, towards people not caring about any type of rules, not caring about any type of dignity, not caring about any type of ways of settling things in a unifiable, decent way. And it's really become scary, because I've made mention of this before, that the difference between what those people was dealing with during World War II, whenever the Fat Boy and other things had to happen to be able to end that war. Whenever basically Adolf Hitler invaded Poland and started doing what he was doing over there. The difference then versus now is that we have people over here today in the 21st century that does not have the same objectives as what they did in the 20th century regarding World War II. At least during World War II, even China, even other countries, once they realized that we had created something that would be desolate to everything and everybody, they immediately surrendered and waved their hands because of the decency of humanity. Do we have that same decency today whenever it comes to seeing this type of self-destruction upon a humanity? I question that. I really do. I question that because I'm seeing these things boil and get worse and worse and worse. And it makes me worry toward just exactly where all this is heading.
It's the drug crisis that is touching every American community.
We're losing a generation.
Is enough being done to fight the scourge of fentanyl?
Is enough being done? I would say not. But who am I? But now they get on national TV with these politicians, and they get to screaming.
This morning made a new hole in my belt.
They get to screaming about this right and that right, and what's went on over here, and what's went on over there, and what's going on today over here, and what's going on today over there. But yet, no, we really don't see people that's got a true solution to the problem. We really don't see policymakers that's stepping up to the plate like we did back in the late 50s and early 60s, to where we at least had somewhat of an ideal, a goal. We had somewhat of a trajectory of which way that we really needed to go and how that we was going to get there. Today, we don't even have the thought. We don't even have the dream. We don't even have the desire.
And this is what the issue I'm talking about these days. And 40 of them were former business leaders. So they're not currently heading companies, in large part because it's risky if you're head of a company to say, I'm for this candidate and this candidate could lose. Some of them also were people like Larry Summers, who very smart and former Treasury Secretary. He's not really a business leader. And then you have others, like the ones you mentioned, a lot of them were from Hollywood and from Silicon Valley. And in those places, it's an advantage to come out in favor of the Democrat, in large part because your workforces are very liberal. And if you don't come out for the Democrat, then your workforces can rebel against you. We've seen some evidence of that, and I do talk about that in The Power of Money as well.
We have just about 30 minutes left with Tevi Troy, author of the new book, The Power and the Money, The Epic Clashes Between Commanders-in-Chief and Titans of Industry. If you have a question or comment, the lines are open. It's Democrats 202-748-8000, Republicans 202-748-8001, and Independents.
Leaders were planning a major terror attack in Israel. I'm joined now by former staff sergeant of the IDF and founder of From the Depths, Johnny Daniels. Also with us is retired Brigadier General of the U.S. Air Force and a U.S. Deputy Military Rep for NATO and Newsmax contributor, General Blaine Holtz. Johnny, let's start off with you first. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, has some direct words for the Lebanese foreign minister. Take a listen.
Minister Abdallah Abu Habib, Your Excellency, you have allowed a terrorist organization to create a state within your state, bringing ruin to your own people. Instead of blaming us, your peaceful neighbors, you should take action now to restrain Hezbollah and avoid greater escalation.
Johnny, we're also learning that the senior Hezbollah leaders killed in Friday's IDF airstrike were meeting to plan another October 7th style invasion in northern Israel. Are you surprised by that?
Not at all. I mean, this is obvious to us. Look, Hezbollah is Hamas. It's just got a different name. It's the same way that Hamas is Al-Qaeda. It just has a different name. All of these organizations are extreme Islamic terrorist organizations. We have to understand that. This battle that we face isn't just a battle in the south, it's a battle in the north, it's a battle on 7 fronts in total. And none of this is surprising, and this is why Israel needs to keep this strength and this deterrence constantly, because it is going to continue, unfortunately, unless we're the strongest people in the region.
You know, General, Israel continues to pummel Hezbollah. Another targeted strike was also launched on Friday in Beirut, killing at least 37. You just heard what I reported there, that we are hearing that they were planning another October 7th style invasion of Israel. The Israeli Defense Force reporting it killed 16 Hezbollah members in that strike, including 12 senior commanders. There's now concern a full-scale war could break out in the Middle East. How concerning is this?
Yeah, there's really no reverse gear at this point. Israel's going to have to take care of its problems. You know, the root ball of this, there's been a lot of tension since October 7th, that's for sure. But the root ball of how Israel goes its own way on a strategy and is when you see Kamala Harris come out during Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to the United States and chastises and dresses him down publicly and then turns off his microphone. And then you see the stream of senior leaders in Iran, Iraq, Lebanon getting rolled up. And you see it continue today with the electronics pieces and parts. That's all preparatory fires for shaping a battlefield for a much greater war. You've got tanks now in position, ready to roll. And they're basically, there's only 3 guys, Nasrallah and 2 commanders left in this chain of command. They're leaving Nasrallah alive for now to say, you need to pull back because we're taking a buffer, we're going to take a buffer position. That plan was called the Conquest of Galilee. And it was going to be brutality and violence against civilians that made October 7th look like a smaller affair. And so preemptively, Israel, and on its own initiative and grand strategy, is taking care of these problems.
Real quick, I want to get to this. Low-tech communication devices purchased and worn by Hezbollah terrorists exploded across Lebanon thanks to an incredibly successful, brilliant, top-secret Israeli operation on Tuesday. Thousands of pagers were detonated. They were on these Hezbollah terrorists, followed by dozens of their walkie-talkies.
Once more, to me, this is my opinion. Everybody's got opinion, just like everybody's got, you know what. This has reached a level of using biological chemicals or using gas in defense of you succeeding in doing whatever that you're doing, and instead of it tapering down, it's actually ratcheting up. And because we don't see various spokesmen, either in the UK, the United States, or other great nations, standing up against this type of activity and speaking out against it, to me, makes me wonder, well, are we sailing set for that in which what the Bible has already predicted pertaining to the blood getting as deep as a horse's bridle over in the Middle East? Is that what's next? Because it darn sure looks like it to me. In other words, all the talks, all the work, all the everything that America's been involved in for the past 30 plus years is now falling apart right in front of our very eyes. And when it's all said and done with, I'm telling you right now, it's going to be coming near a neighborhood near you. And if it don't affect you one way, it will affect you in another way. If it don't affect you monetarily, it will affect you by watching TV and seeing all this stuff going on. It'll affect you emotionally. It will affect you either in a negative way or a positive way. It will affect you. So whenever I use the Walmart memento, coming near a neighborhood near you, I'm not joking. We live on a very small planet in comparison to what it was during World War II. Apparently this is what you want. The only thing I can think of.
blown up on Wednesday. All told, at least 39 people have been killed, more than 3,000 injured. Johnny, quick reaction as well as General. I mean, do you think this kind of precision, targeted attack will go down in the history books and will be studied by military leaders across the world? I mean, it's incredible what they did here.
It's remarkable, and it's something that needed to happen. Look, it's also an incredibly strong deterrent, right? When you have these people now petrified of anything electronic, there's all these jokes going around.
Well, we thought it was remarkable whenever all this stuff started, October, whenever they first got attacked, and they was parasailing people into regions by using people using tactics that we ain't never seen before. The same way with what they're talking about right now is electronic warfare regarding using planting explosives in things like pagers and stuff like that. It's reaching a level. I'm telling you right now, it is reaching a level, and done already has reached that level of tear gassing and using tear gas, just like biological warfare, and using various chemicals to take out various people. And that's one of the reasons why that I've been so upset for the past 4 or 5 years and making so many videos, is because that was one of the Army's #1 worries in seeing our national defense be basically defeated whenever it comes to using these type of war tactics, regardless whether it's chemicals, regardless whether it's germ warfare, regardless whether it's information warfare. And it has reached a level that I truly do not believe that our American government can no longer provide safety for its American citizens. And that is a very, very strong implication of anybody saying that about anybody's government that's willing to stand up and make a statement like that. But whenever you get to looking at all the school shootings and all the drugs and all the guns and all the illegals and everything else going on over here in America, what else am I supposed to think? Am I supposed to think that we're in paradise over here right now, pretending all these events is going on? No, I'm not. And nobody else would either.
Going around that they're scared to turn on the kettle or the air conditioning in their bedrooms because they don't know if that's going to blow up as well. This is exactly what Israel needs to do. We need to stand tall, we need to stand strong, and we need to make sure that these people know that the second they join an organization like Hamas or Hezbollah or anybody else, that they're going to have what's coming to them, and rightly so.
General, how did they do this? 20 seconds to you.
Yep, there's the first part of this is a supply chain interdiction. While the goods are coming on, they replace the battery with some explosives in it, 20 grams of PETN. Does the job. Everything else has to go extremely perfectly. Next day, they attacked a bunch of different electronic devices. That's a very different way. I can't really speak to that because of my own background, but I can tell you that a lot of physics are involved with that type of stuff. Amazing work, and the staff sergeant has it exactly right.
General Holt, Johnny Daniels, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is. It's amazing. But it's amazing in a bad way, not in a good way, as far as using those type of tactics. What's next? What's next? Biological warfare? Chemical warfare? Internet warfare? We have reached a part of our lives today in the 21st century all over the planet to where basically hell has been unleashed upon to the people. Literal hell has been unleashed upon to the people upon to this planet. And to me, this is just another fulfillment of the Word of God that talks about woe be unto the inhabitants here upon to the planet whenever you shall start to see these things occurring. That I've said all along, we're under the first woe. And whenever it comes to the paradigm shift, we have no one to blame for the world being cheated. We have no one to blame other than the people that could have supported a movement of God through the Windmill Ministries missions, but chose not to. And we're talking about the Western world. We're talking about those that claimed that they had the intellect about the Antichrist, the false prophet, the New World Order, the two witnesses, the four horsemen, the seven seals, the end of time, the Persian Empire. We're talking about a group of people that claimed that they had the intellect, but wasn't willing to move upon it, wasn't willing to support it, wasn't willing to stand with the person that was spearheading that. That's where the rebellion started, right here in the good old USA. So whenever you see things on TV and you understand that these conflicts are only growing worse, please do not think that this is something unexpected, because we should be expecting things to even grow unproportionately worse, because nobody is really and truly addressing them properly. They wasn't addressed properly during Ronald Reagan and Mr. Bush's administration. Obvious. Various politicians in America thought that they could speak like the Indians accused a white European man of speaking with a forked tongue, talking about peace, but in reality was not really truly sincere about peace. And we're seeing that on a manifestation today on levels I wouldn't have never dreamed of. And to think that I got a son and his wife and my granddaughter and other children that's been exposed to these things are going to be exposed to these things unfairly. Golly. What are they going to have to inherit? Teetotal absolute hell. Especially whenever you're looking at this government over here talking about another government shutdown. Can't even prevent from all the illegals coming over the border with all the drugs and all the guns. It's chaotic. We've lost the rule of law. That's what's happened in America and throughout the planet. We are losing the rule of law, and that's exactly what the Luciferian Lucifer wants. That way he can shake his fist in the face of God and say, look what I have done. I have brought destruction into the Homo sapiens' lives, the same as I brought destruction into my own. That's where we're at. And if people can't take that serious, then good luck to all of us. God bless America, and God bless our troops, and may heaven, for God's sakes, help us all. Shalom.